welcome back to the Golestan podcast. I have a special guest today. His name's Darren Gleeman, and his background is unreal. For the stuff that he's done in the past and what he's doing now, it's super unique. So I'm super excited to have you on the show, Darren. And I'd love for you to explain to the audience, who you are, what you're doing, and what you've done in the past, and kind of how you got to where you're at today.
All right. Well, right now, what we do is we structure firms as ESOPs, which I'll get into in a little bit what an ESOP is. But bottom line is an ESOP is just another way to sell your company, right? You could sell your company to a private equity, you could sell your firm to a competitor, or you can sell your firm to your employees via an ESOP. And why would you want to do that? The reason why you want to sell your firm to an ESOP is because of the tremendous tax benefits and the tax subsidies that the government gives you. Plus, of course, it's good for your employees because with an ESOP, they don't put up any money. You are giving them a gift. It's all done through leverage. So that's really the beauty of an ESOP. And I can get into that later on, but you want me to get into from my beginning, which is a pretty cool story.
That'll be awesome. But the ESOPs and everything, because I know, guys, pretty much what it is now because I've been working with Darren and just helping him out with some like LinkedIn stuff. And he told me, what he's doing with ESOPs and everything. And it really piqued my interest because I've never heard of a way to sell the company the way that he now has like a strategy based on, because the government is now allowing people to do it this way, right? It was through Biden. They passed something.
No, it hasn't been through Biden. Actually, an ESOP's been around for a very long time.
Okay.
Actually, this is the employee stock ownership plan, but really it started in the 1950s.
Oh, wow. Okay. And no one's known about it pretty much. It's like a super unexposed way to sell your company in a super profitable way.
Yeah, no one really knows. But what happened is there was this paper. It was called, I think it was called the Peninsula newspaper.
Yeah.
Actually, it was in San Francisco. And the owner promised the employees that he'd be able to sell it to them.
Yeah.
Well, there's no way that these employees could afford to buy this. There's no way. Couldn't figure it out. And so they hired this investment banker a lawyer out in New York, actually out in the Midwest. And his name was Louis Kelso, and genius guy. And he came up with an idea of how they would actually do this. You would need to use the tax code to get it done. But he figured out a way to use the tax code where the employees would not have to put up any money and they'd be able to get all these cool benefits.
That's awesome.
So that was done in the 1950s. That was really the first one around. And then the 1970s is when it actually became codified in the U.S. tax code.
Interesting.
They actually then coined the term ESOP, which actually the name itself is, I think it's a pretty bad name.
Honestly, it doesn't have that, that ring of the bell type of word. And that's why it needs to be exposed more, because there's people that are planning on selling their company. They might list it on Flippa. They might list it on, some site, or they might use a broker, try to sell it. Because you told me that, who really is ESOP's best use for when you want to sell your company? It's for if you have like 2 million plus in revenue.
It's 2.5 million in net income.
Okay, in net income. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
When you get a little bit lower than that, it becomes difficult. But
okay,
the main points of why you would want to do an ESOP. Number one, when you sell your company to a regular private equity firm or to a strategic, right? Let's say you sell your company to some guy comes and wants to buy your company. You have to pay capital gains tax on that.
Right? It sucks. So it's what, 30%, right?
It's 30% right now for you, right? And it's going up to 40%. That's where I was talking about with the Biden administration. I see. The Senate, the Congress, Senate and the House and the presidency are all Democrats. They want to increase the capital gains tax.
Insane.
And so mostly we're thinking across the board that the capital gains tax in the federal levels and go from 20 to 30, which means for you in California it'd be 40%. So if you sold your company for like $10 million, you got to pay $4 million.
That's crazy. No, so then in my opinion, it says, why wouldn't people use an ESOP? It's literally, it's a no-brainer in my opinion. And if anyone that's listening to this is in a position where, they are at that 2.5 million plus in profit, and they're looking to sell, how could they get best hold of you, Darren? What would be the best way for them to reach out to you? Because I want to just do that plug now also, because I know that there is for sure some people in the audience that might be in that position.
Oh, well, definitely. I mean, you go to our website, which is www.mboventures.com. You can also, text me on LinkedIn. You can call me. My phone number is 646-734-2035. But it is
Beautiful.
weird, actually, when people call me. Like, I'll get calls. I'm like, I don't know who it is. And I'm like, what is this? And I don't know the number. And I'm like, hello, this is Darren. It's kind of weird.
No, it is. For me, I have this thing on my phone. It's called RoboKiller. And so anytime, because the biggest thing is now the spam calls. You get them all the time, right? I'm sure you get them too, Darren, where it's like you get some spam call. Honestly, you get them constantly now. So there's this tool I use, and it blocks any of them just from coming in, and it actually talks to them in an automated robotic voice and wastes their time for like 3 to 4 minutes about some nonsense. And then it sends me over the voicemail afterwards, and it's hilarious. But
I like that.
It's awesome. But no, guys, Darren you'll walk them through pretty much all of the specific steps and procedures, making sure everything is compliant, perfect for when you do come to sell your company and you want to do it the ESOP way, because there's no point in not doing it the ESOP way if you are at that net income level, because you will save more money for yourself.
Yeah. There's no point. I'll just go through it very quickly. Which means number one, you sell your kind of, like we were saying before, Grant, you sell your company to a normal way, you got to pay that capital gains. When you sell it to an ESOP, that capital gains tax is deferred. That means you don't pay it. And if you structure correctly, it's deferred forever, right? That's number
amazing.
One. Yeah, that's really, it's unbelievably amazing. Number two is the way that private equity comes in. Like, how do people go out? Do you realize it's easier to buy a company that's $100 million than it is to buy a company that's $4 million? Because you have a company that's crazy. It's crazy. $4 million. That means I have to kind of put the money up myself. I'm not going to get any loans, so I got to put up $4 million. This is kind of hard. But at $100 million, that's a different story. Because for $100 million, let's say the company's making $20 million a year, you go out and use other people's money. You go out and, like a private equity firm, they put up very little of their own money. They go out and they borrow a big chunk of it, right?
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's how it's much easier. Like, if I want to buy, let's say you have great experience in what you're doing, right? In marketing.
Sure.
Right. And let's say there was another marketing firm that was pretty big.
Yeah.
And you wanted to buy. When you look at that firm, like, how can you possibly buy it?
Yeah.
I don't have that money, because you're not using your money. You're going to go out and you can use other people's money to actually, will lend you the money, or not you personally, will lend the company to actually buy it. So a private equity firm does that. They're using all leverage to go out and buy companies.
Yeah. That's crazy. It's so backwards, the system with all of that, because it should be easier to buy a smaller company. But I guess it comes down to that proof of concept is what they're thinking in their head. They're like, you know what, this company is bigger. It's more likely to succeed.
That's right. And as long as, so I'm looking at when you want to buy a company, right? Or when you're looking to actually, if I'm looking to actually buy a company, if I don't have the ability to do it, then I'm not going to raise the money.
Exactly.
But let's say I want to go out and buy a restaurant. Who am I to buy a restaurant? So what I need to do, it's almost like you're a producer in a movie.
Sure.
I now need to get the correct actors, or I need to get the correct management team.
Sure.
So I need to know someone. I need to find the person that is really great at licensing. Yeah. I need to find someone that's great at branding. And I need to find out my CEO. And I need an operations guy. So I'll have to say 4 people that I'm going to become part of my team. And I explain to them, look, I'm going to give you all equity. So now I put together a deck, and I go and I start pitching firms, and I start pitching private equity firms. Say, look, I want to buy this company for $100 million. And we have this team of 4 people. Right, I want you to put up the equity, and then we're going to go out and get loans from banks to actually do the actual purchase, and that's how it works.
That's so interesting. So, Darren, how did you get into doing this? Because I've never came across someone else that's doing ESOPs, right? Like, you're at the current state, and I think forever, as long as you keep doing this, you're going to be at the top of this, because I don't see anyone else really doing this and talking this much about them. So, how did you get involved in it? And then, to back up even further, what were you doing before this? Because you were telling me, and it's super interesting what you were doing before.
Yeah. So what I was doing before was super interesting. So if anybody has heard, it's called the words that people use is high frequency trading. Bottom line, that means that we have computers that trade stocks for you. Okay. Yeah. So this is how it started. Back in 1999, I was trading at a firm with a bunch of other people. Mm-hmm. And I was not a good trader. I have to say,
Sure.
I wasn't a good trader at all. It wasn't good, but I was pretty good at math. And the guys around me, they were all really good, at trading. And we found a pattern in the stock market, a real honest to goodness pattern, not a make believe. It was a real pattern, which I can actually explain how these patterns work, because when you trade stocks, it's not kind of like, I think it's going to go up. It's going to go up. You have like a 90% chance if it's going to go up, or a 90% chance if it's going to go down. You really know.
Yeah.
So we found this pattern, and at that time we could only trade maybe 3 or 4 stocks at once.
Sure.
That's not a lot. Now at the time you had about 7,000 stocks trading.
Wow.
So was the idea. Now this is back in 1999. Well, what if we can go out and computerize the pattern? Trade through computers. Well, the company they were with wouldn't do it. They're like, there's no way we're going to take that chance. It's not, it's too much. They understood the power of what it could be, but they just didn't want to take that chance.
Yeah, sure.
So we left that firm, and it was 3 of us. We left the firm and went to another company. And this other company said, great idea. As long as you put up your own money and you get your own programmer, we're good to go. And you have to work with our programmers.
That makes sense.
So we started the company, and this is, I guess, it was right after 9/11.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right after 9/11, it was about a month or 2 months afterwards where we finally launched.
Interesting. So the stock market at that time, it's like, it's shattered, right? It's broken.
Shattered.
People have lost hope in it in some ways. People are like scared of doing it. And you guys said, you know what? We're going to go deep into this with our strategy.
Oh yeah. And the whole country at the time was just, it's a low. And it was a difficult time back then.
Yeah, definitely.
So we launched the program or that pattern. And right away, again, after the debugging, it started working.
That's
and
crazy.
It started to work significantly. And when I say significantly, that means that we never had a losing day. Every single day, this thing would make money just as the model predicted.
That's crazy.
You're dealing with a lot of stock. Even at this point, we were dealing, I think very quickly, within a couple of weeks, we were probably trading a couple of 100,000 shares of stock every day. And this is a couple of weeks of starting. Yeah, a couple of 100,000 shares of stock. What we didn't realize when we did this is that we would get all this data. This trading. And then we had all the data, and very easily, especially at the time, we were able to put together the data, and we found another pattern.
Interesting. Right? Okay. Okay.
And that other pattern, then we just coded the other pattern up.
That's
and it crazy.
Worked. That's insane.
And then we found another pattern, and then we kept on finding more and more patterns, right? And these are patterns that are making a huge amount of money. And we started building it and hiring people and getting bigger. And then we started hiring quantitative analysts. And the quantitative analyst is someone that a typical guy would be a PhD from like Stanford that has a math PhD that really understands numbers, and they can start working on the pattern recognition along with, we had people working on, let's say, networking to make us faster.
Sure.
So we were building out, and very cool at the very beginning. This is like first year, we were in this tiny little room. It must have been like 20 feet by 20 feet. And we had about 100 computers stacked on top of each other on these racks. It was about 120 degrees.
That's crazy.
Yeah, we had these air conditioners blowing out cool air in the middle of the winter. We just couldn't keep it down enough.
Oh yeah, because the computers will overheat.
Heat. And at one point, we almost took the entire building down because of the electricity that we had.
Oh my! I bet you guys had such a big electricity bill with all this.
It was just insane. Those are like the good old days. So we finally realized it doesn't make sense to have our computers in this room. Let's put it in one of these service centers, and we can keep our computers.
Yeah, sure.
Well, about 2005, 2006, we're much bigger now at this point. And we needed speed. Now, that's why it's called high frequency trading, because you're trading in and out very quickly.
Yeah, sure.
We needed a lot of speed. And so we had an idea. What if we could take our computers and sit them right next to the computers in NASDAQ?
Oh, wow.
Right?
Oh, because that'll improve that speed, because it really comes down to this, each second matters.
That's right. Each second, it comes down to, at that point, it was a millisecond. That's
crazy.
Millisecond. That's a
That's
thousandth
insane.
of a second. So if we can be closer to them, we could shave off, let's say, 5 milliseconds in time.
Wow. That's insane.
So yeah. So at first they were said, absolutely no way, we're not allowing you to do this.
Yeah.
9 months later, they did allow us to do it, and we were in. It's called co-location. We were co-located in NASDAQ.
Wow, that's
Trading
insane.
there. Yeah, we were there first in for about 3 weeks.
That's
And
insane.
and for those 3 weeks, you could see what the speed does.
Yeah, no, for sure. I bet that increased your guys' profits like instantly. You could probably tell.
Instantly, within that moment.
That's
Instantly,
crazy.
because you can't beat out anything when you're that close. Think
That
of
is
us right
so
now. Because you're calling from California, I'm calling from New York, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a delay between you and me of, let's say, a second.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Sure.
And let's say, I'm looking here and I see a deal happens here. I see, something fantastic happens right in front of me.
Yeah.
Something's fantastic that's going to make Google shoot up.
Yeah.
And I say to you, Grant, this amazing thing just happened. Well, you're delayed by a second.
You're right. And that's a disadvantage to me.
That's a disadvantage. So if you were now a half a second, you'd make all the money. So that's why the speed is extremely important.
I love that you did that, because it goes back to like the one thing that I really believe in is stacking unfair advantages in life. And I feel like you gotta find as many unfair advantages that you could find and just obtain them. And that is such a big unfair advantage that you guys had there, because you're competing in such a cutthroat industry, stock trading and all that stuff. It's, I'd say, one of the most ruthless industries you could be in, because it's just pure dollars, math, seconds, speed. That's it. And
that's it.
It's insane that, and amazing that you specifically were able to crack that code at that time, especially in a time period when, the market was so shattered and so many people went home defeated. And you guys said, you know what, we have our own plan, and you guys came up with it and it worked. It's unreal.
Yeah, it's pretty good stuff. And I can get into the actual how you make money in the stock market this way, because you always hear people, which is crazy to me, they always have these systems.
Yeah.
And it's a system, I'm going to tell you how to make $1 million in the stock market, or $100,000 by telling you the secrets to the stock market.
Yeah.
Well, if I had the secret, which we did, I'm not telling you.
Of course not, because then you create more competition.
Then you create more competition and it goes away. So the only way that I'd ever tell you anything is if it was in existence. So I do have patterns, and I can tell the patterns because my non-compete is up. And these trade secrets, I know other firms are still doing it, but you can't compete because of the speed. You need such amazing speed to do it. And so I can tell people exactly how we made money. Again, it's not rocket science. It was all just, here, I'll give you an example of how not rocket science it is.
Sure.
The ideas are very simple. And the ideas are, how the Earth revolves around the sun?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's an idea that we all know. Okay. The Earth revolves around the sun. But 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, we didn't know that. We thought that the sun revolved around the Earth. And then the first person to have that idea, that was like a crazy idea, but that person was correct. Right?
You're right.
It's the same thing. And it's pretty simple. It's the same thing with all these stock patterns. They're very simple ideas. It's just that no one else thought of it.
No, yeah, you're right. You're right.
But they are simple ideas. Now, when you look at people, having ideas of trading stocks, and I've listened to some of these pitches, it's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah. You probably see all this stuff. You see all these like Instagram people, Facebook people, YouTube people that have these courses saying, trade this stock, or I have this stock course on how you can make this much money in the stock market, or now the new thing is Forex. Like all these people are Forex experts. We know how to trade the currencies like crazy. And in my head, I go, just the way you thought, why would you be telling all these people how to do it? Because if you had a money machine that's working, you're going to keep that to yourself and become as rich as possible. And then maybe later you'll make a book on it. But once you've made all your money.
That's right. Yeah. And in terms of currency trading, Yeah, we did make money on currency trading. It was very easy.
What was that like the Forex market and everything? What was the differences to you guys, and how did you have to adapt differently?
Well, yeah, the Forex market was a lot different because we were so good at it that what happened is the banks, because you dealt directly with banks.
Yeah.
And so you have an agreement. Let's say you're JP Morgan. I'm working with you. And let's say you're JP Morgan, you're Citibank, and you trade off of each other. But as soon as you, JP Morgan, lose money off of us, you're going to cut me off.
Yeah, of course.
Right away, you cut us off. You don't want to lose money.
Yeah,
definitely. And so that's what happened is very quickly, we would just cut off.
Yeah, sure.
We were doing everything by computers, and it was something called a triangular arbitrage is what we did at that time. What that means is this. Okay, let's say you have a $1.
Yeah.
Right. Let's say $1 can buy you one British pound.
Sure.
Okay. And let's say one British pound can buy one Deutschmark.
Sure.
Okay. So that's all equal.
Yeah.
Well, let's just say for some reason, and let's say one Deutschmark can buy 1 pound. So all equal. One.
Sure.
Well, let's say for some reason, a British pound, it costs them now, let's say 50 cents to buy a Deutschmark.
Oh, okay. I see.
Right? But now I can still go out and use my dollar to buy 1 Deutschmark as opposed to 0.5 Deutschmarks.
That makes sense.
Not getting into the math, but you can very easily write down the paper and say, oh, wait a second. That doesn't make sense. You can make a lot of money by buying this and then selling that.
Yeah, because you see over here, it's cheaper than what it should be. And then you can sell it at that profit over here, right?
Yeah, instantaneously, you make a profit.
That's crazy.
Away.
Wow. That's so. How has it, like, in your opinion, how has like the markets really evolved since when you were heavily involved in it to today?
Very, very efficient.
Really?
Very efficient. Okay. Here's another example of a program. Here's the program.
Sure.
Sony trades in Japan, right? It trades in New York.
Yeah.
Well, in Japan, it trades in yen. In New York, it trades in dollars.
Sure.
Let's say after the conversion, let's say Sony in New York costs $100, and in Japan, it's $102.
Sure.
Okay, so what do? Well, I buy it in New York at $100, and then I simultaneously then sell it for $102 in Japan.
Oh, interesting.
Right?
Interesting. Yeah, no, it makes sense.
Arbitrage, right? There's no brainer for that. Now,
you're right.
Cryptocurrency.
Yeah. What is your thoughts on crypto? And
that can be done right now.
Yeah, you're right.
Like literally right now, you could do that. So you could do that today, Grant. You can go in, you can buy Bitcoin in the United States and sell it in South Korea for a very large premium and make it. I don't know what the difference is right now, the arbitrage is, but it could be a couple $1,000s.
Wow.
If you look at it today and you look at an exchange in South Korea and you look at an exchange in New York, you will look at that and say, oh my God, I can make money. Now I'm that I told you that now is gonna you're gonna look into it and you'd be like, oh my God, and you're gonna go into this abyss because you're gonna see it. Because I
think everyone is going to that's listening is gonna probably go and try to do this now and try and make some money on this. It's actually amazing though, because that's some solid value that you just gave everybody. Because that could probably make them. That's insane. That's amazing.
Well, so now you got to figure out how to do it. The issue, there's issues with it, is because in South Korea, you're not allowed to move money out of South Korea unless move it out to New York.
So you have to do a lot of thinking on this to figure out a plan to do it.
Right? Yeah. So maybe have a friend who's in South Korea university that could sell it. There's ways to do it. Of
course, you got to just be creative with it. You
got to be creative.
You gave them that blueprint though on that strategy. And now it's up to them though to figure out how to connect those dots.
That blueprint is that. And I'll tell you, this was a couple of years ago. The differential was $5,000. It was you could buy it here for something like $20,000 and sell it there for $25,000.
That's crazy. That's insane. Unreal.
Yeah. So all over the world, they have these arbitrage opportunities with Bitcoin right now.
That's crazy, man. Well,
you have to know how to do it. Yeah, that's there.
I'll say thank you for everybody on their behalf, myself, for that advice and for that golden nugget. But so you did all of this, which is unreal. First of all, it's amazing. And so how then did you transition into the ESOP side of things? How did you come across ESOPs first of all, and what motivated you to start forming a company helping people, sell their companies as an ESOP?
So when we had the company, we had bought other firms.
Yeah.
And when you buy firms, number one is you have there's synergies. And what synergies means is that, well, I don't need two tax departments, two accounting departments. I don't need two marketing departments. So you can fire people, right?
Sure.
Which is one thing that you do when you put companies together, which is not a good thing, right? Not a good thing.
Yeah.
Well, we sold that firm. I sold my firm in 2018.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was like, all right, I'm going to go into private equity. And private equity, what you're doing is I'm going to buy, let's say, a manufacturing firm. And I buy a manufacturing firm for, let's say, $20 million.
Yeah.
And then I buy other smaller manufacturing firms and I kind of bolt them up.
Yeah.
Right. And I put it on here and I bolt them on. And so then I have synergies because I can remove every single marketing department. Sure. I can remove all the accounting departments. I don't need all the factories. And so you're making it much more efficient. And so what you're doing is by firing humans and also getting rid of some space. And I realized quickly, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I just want to do that. And I looked into other structures and I found out about ESOPs. And an ESOP was just so much better for the owners. They can make so much more money by selling an ESOP.
Sure.
And so I just fell in love with it. And I also liked the idea that you don't fire the employees. This is phenomenal for the employees.
Yeah, you're right.
That's how we got into it.
You're right. No, that's admirable.
Yeah, it's much better for the employees. And I love the idea that it was much better for the owners, but nobody knows about it. Now, we haven't gotten into it at all of other things of why the ESOP is fantastic.
Yeah, tell everybody why, if they are at that point where they qualify to sell, like as an ESOP, what is like the best benefits of it?
Yeah, the best benefit, as we said before, number one benefit is that when you sell to the ESOP, you do not have to pay that capital gains tax. It's deferred, and it's deferred forever, which is huge.
That's insane.
Insane.
That's insane.
That's really insane. It's really insane. And the next thing is, if you decide to sell 100% of your company to the employees via an ESOP, the company runs tax-free. That means you're paying zero federal tax and zero state tax.
That's unreal.
Crazy.
That's unreal. That's why I think, like, if anyone is in that position that they're able to, and it's their goal to sell, because some people, they just say, what, I want to sell once I get to this revenue level or whatever it is. If in my head, if you're at that point and you're contemplating it, instead of listing your site with, some broker or, whatever method you were thinking of using, it's really advantageous to at least consider an ESOP. In my opinion, go forward with an ESOP sale, because in my opinion, when you're selling your company, what's your main goal? It's to cash out. It's to get as much money as you possibly can, right? And so if that's your goal, there's no point in not trying to save 30%, 40% on taxes that you don't have to pay. It's like saying, you know what? I want to just pay as much as I can in taxes. Sign me up for that. No one is saying that they want to do that. But the thing is, people don't realize that things like this are out there, right? Because I never heard of this before meeting you, Darren. And after you told me, I was like, honestly, at first I didn't believe it. I was like, no way, this is real. And you told me and you reaffirmed to me, and I looked into it and I was like, this is legit as heck. And I'm like, why isn't this plastered everywhere? For some reason, it's not discussed about that much. And it might be because the name isn't that sexy. And I don't know.
It's just not known. It's interesting. So President Biden has an economic advisor. And his economic advisor put out a paper on this in the fall. Oh, wow. And what he said is exactly the way he was asked the question is, ESOPs are phenomenal. Why aren't more companies doing it?
Exactly.
The answer, awareness.
Yeah, you're right.
That was the answer.
You're right.
Awareness. People just do not know that it exists. Another thing with an ESOP, it's true. Another thing with an ESOP is that, let's say you do structure it, you sell 100% to the employees via the ESOP, right?
Yeah.
You structure it such that the owners can get something called warrants to buy back a piece of the company in the future. And so they can get, let's say, 20 to 40% warrants to buy back a piece of the company at a very, 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 very low price.
That's unreal.
Which is a second bite at the apple for
That's
the owners.
crazy.
And
That's
it incentivizes, yeah, it is. So the people who own those warrants, right?
Yeah.
It could be the children of the owners. It could be and the management team. Imagine you're a management team of a company, right?
Yeah.
So the company's making $20 million a year. You're a manager. You're the CEO, CFO, and you're making it's like $250,000 a year, $300,000 a year. Good money.
Yeah.
But now the owner decides to do an ESOP. Great. They do the ESOP, selling everything to the employees, and now you, as the management team, have the opportunity to get 20% of the company, or 30%, or 40% of the company into the future. Now imagine how much harder you're going to work to take this company from a $100 million enterprise value to, say, a $500 million enterprise value.
Sure.
It's significant.
Of course, it's insane.
Those warrants are great.
That's tough. Yeah, that's honestly, it's just so many benefits stacked on it that it's just, in my opinion, it's dumb if you don't do it this way. Yeah. It really is because unless you just want to say, you know what, I don't mind paying an extra 40%, then do it. But in my opinion, me personally, I don't like to pay as much as I don't have to. And I feel like most people are that way. You don't want to pay it.
And also, when you sell out your company to, let's say, a private equity firm or to a competitor, you're pretty much out of the company. You're out.
Completely. This has so much more flexibility. With an ESOP, you have so much more flexibility with it for what you can do. It's amazing. It's like you can just, there's so much flexibility. That's why I love it. So much.
You want to stay in, you can stay in. Because a lot of people, they think they want to retire. You don't want to retire.
But once they retire, they get bored and they go, oh my God, I wish I was still running my company, or I wish I was doing something. And you could do that with this. It's unreal.
Right. It is unreal. What most people think is, I'm tired. I'm going to go out. I'm going to play golf. Oh yeah. So great. You go play golf for 6 months and then it's like, now what?
Yeah.
You don't know what to do. So this is a way you can step out quietly. You can continue working for the next 10 years, whatever you want to do, you can do with ESOP. It really is fantastic for that.
I love it. And what's your website again, Darren? Just so that everybody knows it.
Yeah, it's www.MBO, like management buyout, MBOventures.com. And management buyout, because this is also a phenomenal way for managers to buy out their company.
That is, you're right.
ESOP structure.
You're right. And then LinkedIn is Darren, DARREN, GLEEMAN.
Yes.
And guys, go ahead, follow him. If you're, going to be planning on selling your company, consult with him, let him know. Darren is he's a friend. He has your best interest at heart. And at the end of the day, he's really just trying to make people save more money for themselves and be set up for advantageous play in life.
Absolutely. Thanks, Grant. And it's also, and of course, as we said before, for the employees, there's nothing better for the employees because you will now make these employees rich and it costs them nothing. So
and you don't have to get them fired. They don't have to get cut and just then you have some bad blood, for no reason. Like, come on. People, I think, forget that reputation matters so much. And when you go the ESOP way, you have that benefit for reputation, for money, for saving it. It's just stacked in every way where it's like, every way. It's really, I love it. It's good always. I love it. Well, Darren, this was amazing. I appreciate you coming on, and I hope that everyone that's listening enjoyed this so much.
Thank you, Grant.
Of course.